Hey everyone, welcome back to the Mass Retirees Weekly Update. Today's Friday, December 5th. I'm Sean Duhamel. Thank you so much for joining with us and tuning in again this week. Now, this week I have some breaking news for all of you relative to our legislative proposals. You know that we filed 16 or so different legislative proposals or bills for the current legislative session here in Massachusetts. The legislative session runs from 2025 through 2026, so we're still in the first year of the session, although it's winding down quickly, and a number of our bills have started to move through the legislative process, while others are still under active review by the Joint Committee on Public Service, and we're hopeful that the additional bills, at least some of them, will receive further action prior to the Christmas break. But before I get into the details of exactly what's going on and fill you in on a few other things, let me first remind all of you that we have the final Mass Retirees membership meeting of 2025. It's coming up in just 2 weeks. 2 weeks from yesterday, as a matter of fact, on Thursday, December 18th at 1 p.m. in the afternoon, Eastern Time, of course, we will be hosting a tele-town hall meeting. All Mass Retirees meetings are open to all members. The beauty of our tele-town hall events is all you need is a phone, whether it's your landline or your cell phone, regardless of anywhere in the world that you may happen to be. If you want to participate in the tele-town hall event, you can, as long as you're a Mass Retirees member. Now, this particular meeting is going to be very important, and we're hoping that we have a robust turnout amongst members. The reason why it's important is for really two main reasons. First and foremost, over the next couple of weeks, we're anticipating that the Special COLA Commission will release its report on the work it's been doing for the past year, as well as recommendations on improving the COLA benefit, both the COLA base for state and teacher retirees, as well as the creation of a new enhanced or senior COLA, not only for state and teacher retirees, but it would be a local option provision for the 102 local retirement systems. So this is a major development. It's something that, of course, is going to carry over into 2026. That is going to be a major focus of our legislative team for the coming year, because this is a multi-step process, remember. The first step was the creation of the commission. The second step was the work that the commission is doing right now. The report is about to come out. That report will then be turned into a legislative proposal, which needs to be passed into law or passed by the House and the Senate, sent to Governor Healy for her approval. So we're working our way through this process, but there's a lot of work that remains to be done. And we want to make sure that all of you are very well aware of where things stand, that you have the opportunity to ask questions. Our association president, Frank Valeri, is your representative on the COLA Commission. He was appointed to this role by Governor Healy. Frank has really led the charge, along with Erica Glaster from the Teachers Retirement System, retired executive director and now a member of Mass Retirees. Frank and Erica, along with the 5 other members of the Special Commission, have put a lot of time and effort and work into developing, first studying the issue, studying all the different variations of the models of how this can be accomplished. And we are very much looking forward to this next step, getting the report published and then taking it before the legislature. So that's the first part of the tele-town hall. The second part of the tele-town hall, if the COLA wasn't enough, is your health insurance. If you've been following our weekly messages or our newsletter for the better part of the last 2.5 to 3 years, you know that we have been spending a lot of time and effort on healthcare, and in particular, the issue of healthcare affordability. This is a major issue for our association and for all of you. You know that your healthcare costs have gone up. We're very fearful that they're going to continue to go up, and we're even more fearful of the potential for a knee-jerk reaction, both at the state level as well as at the local level, to gain control over costs by shifting those costs, or at least a portion of them, onto you. Cost shifting, as we have been saying, is not the answer to this crisis. It's not even a Band-Aid. It is a temporary fix that would lead to long-term negative implications for you and for our overall healthcare system. But I'm not going to get into those details right now. Why the 18th is important is that the Group Insurance Commission is meeting on the morning of December 18th in just 2 weeks. So the timing of our tele-town hall, and this is partly why we rescheduled the town hall that was supposed to have taken place in November. We rescheduled it to December for 2 reasons. The COLA Commission report, as well as knowing just how important these developing issues with healthcare are going to be. If you remember, just 2 weeks ago, Nancy McGovern and I reported on the conferences that we've taken part in recently, as well as the options that have been put on the table by the GIC, or to be considered by the 17-member GIC Commission, to gain control over costs. There's a lot of concern about price inflation when it comes to healthcare. And while some of the options may not be bad ideas, we need to learn more about these things, of course, but a number of the options do nothing other than to shift the burden of these costs onto all of you. So again, if you can participate in the town hall, this is something you're probably not going to want to miss. However, if you can't make the town hall, and again, it's December 18th at 1 p.m., the last weekly message for 2025, we're going to take a hiatus for the Christmas and New Year's break, but the message to all of you, the weekly message on the 19th, will contain all of the details of these issues. So either way, you're going to get this information, but the town hall is unique because you're going to learn more in depth about what's going on, and most importantly, you'll have the opportunity to speak directly with myself and Frank and Nancy and our whole team to have your questions answered and your concerns addressed. So there are 2 ways that you can participate in the town hall meeting. The first is to simply receive the automated phone call at the time of the meeting. If we have your phone number on file here, you will receive a call from us at 1 o'clock on the 18th. All you need to do is answer the phone, stay on the line. You're going to be automatically connected to the meeting. If for some reason you don't get the call, it doesn't go through, or you get disconnected from the meeting, you can also dial in yourself. It's a toll-free number that's published on the back of your Mass Retirees membership card. So every one of you has a membership card. If you recently renewed your membership for Mass Retirees and you haven't received your new card for 2026, it's okay. The 2026 card and the 2025 card have the exact same information on there. Nothing has changed. So the numbers that are on the back of your card include my cell phone number, Frank's home phone number, Nancy's cell phone number, Bill Reary's home phone number. These numbers are there for you in an emergency situation. If you can't get us in the office and something comes up after hours, call those emergency numbers. We're there to serve our memberships, and it's something that I think is rather unique with our association, and it's a tradition with us that goes all the way back to 1968 when we were founded. But in addition to our personal contact information, you also have our 24-hour news hotline toll-free number and the tele-town hall number. So there are a variety of ways you can get in touch with us, as well as stay informed about what's going on that directly impacts you as a public retiree. So that's what's taking place on the 18th. In the meantime, let me update you on where we stand with our legislative package. As I said earlier, we filed about 16 bills this year, and we try to limit the number of bills we file every session, first of all, to only legislation that impacts a wide number of members. We do not get involved in individual issues or file individual bills on behalf of individual members. We simply can't do that. We don't have the resources and the bandwidth to focus at such a granular level on legislation. If a member has a question or a problem, we're certainly here to help, but we can't file legislation specifically on your behalf. So all of the bills have a wider scope. Most of them affect everybody, like the COLA legislation, for instance, or some of our bills on health care. Other bills are more specific, like the veterans legislation that we've been filing, but it still impacts thousands and thousands of people. So of the 16 bills that we filed, 5 of them have now been released by the various committees. The majority of bills have been originally before the Joint Committee on Public Service, which focuses on public employment, retirement issues, civil service, everything related to public employment or public retirement. Other bills have either gone to healthcare finance or the Committee on Insurance. So there's been a little bit of a variety. But let me quickly run through the bills. I'm not going to get into all the details of how these bills would work. We've provided that information in our newsletter. You can also find it on our website, massretirees.com. As we go forward and these bills continue to move through the process, you can look for specific weekly updates that do a deeper dive into specific issues, and we've done this in the past. The veterans legislation is a good example of that. The Medicare buy-in legislation is another good example of something that we've just recently reported on. But in terms of bills that have recently come out of committee, we have House 2787, filed by Representative Taki Chan from Quincy. This is the option B and C recalculation. This legislation is now before the House Committee on Ways and Means. House 2799 and Senate 1844. These bills, they're identical. One was filed by Representative Mike Day from Winchester in the House. The other bill was filed by Senator Paul Feeney from Foxborough. That's in the state Senate. The House bill is before the Committee on Bills in third reading, and the Senate bill, its counterpart, is before the Senate Rules Committee. These bills, or this bill, again, it's the same text on each version. We just filed it for two different vehicles. This legislation is specific to municipal retirees to prevent cities and towns from increasing your insurance contribution percentage rates after you've been retired. This is particularly important right now, given what we are facing out there when it comes to healthcare. And like I said a minute ago, our biggest concern with all of this, beyond the fact that benefits are becoming increasingly unaffordable for all of you, is what comes next, and whether or not we see a move to cost shift to make you pay more money for your insurance benefits. One way that cities and towns can force retirees to pay more is to increase the percentage of the premium that you pay. We believe that this is inherently unfair and unjust. At the state level, retirees have been grandfathered in at different contribution splits depending on your date of retirement. We would like to see that same application applied at the local level as well. This is an issue that you're going to specifically hear more details about in the coming weeks and months. But I just wanted to share a little bit more with you because it's just such a pressing issue right now. Also, in terms of health insurance, is House 2801, Surviving Spouse Protection, filed by Representative Marjorie Decker from Cambridge. The bill is now before the Joint Committee on Healthcare Finance, and we're hoping that this legislation also moves forward in the near future. Another bill, House 2834, and its Senate counterpart, Senate 1918. These are the veterans bonus legislation that would increase the bonus from the maximum of $300 that's in place right now, and it's been that level since 1957. This new benefit, if it were to pass, would increase that maximum amount to $1,000 a year added to your pension if you are a veteran. These bills were filed by Representative Dennis Gallagher from Bridgewater and Senator John Velist from Westfield. They're both before either the House or the Senate Ways and Means committees, which is a good sign. Once something gets before Ways and Means, it generally means that it is getting closer to actually moving to the floor of the respective branch for a vote. But work remains to be done on all of these bills. And then finally, also related to veterans, also filed by Senator Velist, is Senate 1917. This updates and modernizes the definition of veteran, and it's something that we've been working on for a number of years. And again, it's something that we have profiled in greater detail in our weekly updates, and you can find further information on all of these issues on our website. Now, as I also mentioned previously, that there are still a number of bills pending before various committees. The majority of our bills remain before the Joint Committee on Public Service. Top amongst them is the COLA legislation that was filed at the beginning of this session, largely as a placeholder in anticipation of the Special COLA Commission report being filed, and those recommendations that will most likely be contained in the report being turned into a legislative proposal. That will most likely happen after the holidays, once we get into January and perhaps into February. Work remains to be done on that. It's one thing to have recommendations, but then those recommendations need to be turned into a legal legislative proposal. And again, some work remains to be done on that. But that's one main issue that's before Public Service. There are also a number of healthcare bills before Public Service that, for all the reasons I've been laying out, are extremely important. We believe that that's why those bills haven't moved yet. Additional work is being done on them. But we will be reporting the progress of all of these bills as soon as there is additional news to report. Now, one other topic I want to bring up this week, and this really stems from phone calls and emails and questions that we have been getting from members on a more regular basis just recently. And this is in regard to the other organizations that exist at the national level, as well as here in Massachusetts, that may be sending retirees solicitations to either join an organization or to make a donation to a cause, or to make a donation with the hope of advancing legislation in Washington, D.C. And these organizations kind of run in cycles. You have some very well-established groups like Mass Retirees, but at the national level, you have AARP, for example. AARP has existed since the mid-1950s. Some of the folks who helped found AARP were actually involved in the early days of Mass Retirees. Bill Reary, who's our general counsel, got his start out of law school working for AARP, and then came on board with us after meeting Ralph White and getting involved here in Massachusetts quite some time ago. But AARP has been a great organization, remains a great organization. My wife and I are actually AARP members, as probably are a number of you. They represent tens of millions of retirees across the country. So that's just one example of a very well-known organization at the national level that routinely recruits retirees and even anyone over the age of 50 to become a member. But we also have other organizations that are not so well known, or not really known at all, who are either sending direct mail pieces, emails, digital ads, at times even phone calls to retirees, asking you not necessarily to join an organization, but to donate money, your money, to some cause that they are pitching to you. Oftentimes these causes, I don't want to say they're fraudulent, but they are more or less a pipe dream. And one of the recent causes that's been kicking around is some notion of adding additional benefits to Social Security, which would be wonderful. However, it is extremely remote, if not completely impossible, that that's ever going to happen. We know from personal experience just how difficult it is to pass a law relative to Social Security, particularly a law increasing benefits. Look what we just went through, the 41-year fight to repeal weapon GPO, and thank goodness it got done. But that is proof of just how difficult that is. So any organization claiming that, send us $5 or $10 or $20, whatever the amount is, because we're working on this special bill that's going to put more money in your pocket, treat that with a grain of salt. When in doubt, do a little bit of homework. You can always call us about these things, and that's really why I'm including this in the weekly message, because of the questions that we're getting from our members, and a number of you have suggested that we address this in the weekly message. So that's examples at the national level. Now here at the state and local level, we also have a number of organizations that exist claiming to represent retirees, and in some cases public retirees. Now, a number of these groups, like Mass Retirees, do a good job, or at least I'd like to think we do a good job, and hopefully you feel the same way. That's why you're watching this. But a number of these organizations are directly connected with our public employee union allies. The teacher unions, the AFT and NEA, both have very active retiree groups at the state and the national level. And I know a number of our teacher members are proud members in retirement of these organizations. And again, they do a wonderful job. The police and firefighter organizations, whether you are an IAFF member or PFFM member or MassCop, the list goes on, but both at the state, national, and the local level, a number of cities and towns have very active police and firefighter organizations who do a great job at the municipal level. But we also have some groups that I'm not quite sure what they do on your behalf. They exist, they're out there, but we're not working with them. And one organization in particular has caused some confusion because they have a very similar name to Mass Retirees. It's an organization called Mass Retirees United. This organization is relatively new or newer. They've been around, I want to say 15 to 20 years. I'm not exactly sure. Mass Retirees, our association, was founded back in 1968. We just celebrated our 57th anniversary. And we have been known, our technical name is the Retired State, County, and Municipal Employees Association of Massachusetts. A bit of a mouthful, but we have been commonly known as the Mass Retirees Association or Mass Retirees for many decades. You've all seen our logo, of course. It's proudly displayed on our newsletter and our website and our social media pages. And I know a great number of our members proudly display our logo, the Mass Retirees logo, on your cars. So we are not in any way, shape, or form affiliated with or working in any way with Mass Retirees United. If their representatives walked into my office right now, I wouldn't know who they were. I have no idea. But I do know what we do on your behalf. And a question that we have recently gotten from some newer members who have received our invitation to join Mass Retirees. Around the same time, apparently, they got information in the mail about other organizations and reached out and said, what's the difference? What makes you different than them? Well, first of all, we've been around a long time, but that's not enough. We know, or I know, about the work that we do day in and day out on your behalf. In terms of our advocacy work, 5 members of our Mass Retirees team, including myself, are registered lobbyists working on your behalf. In fact, the law in Massachusetts is clear. If you are advocating on Beacon Hill for an association, for a cause, for legislation, you have to register as a lobbyist. So if someone's reaching out to you saying that they're lobbying or advocating for better COLA benefits or healthcare benefits or whatever the case may be, the first question is, are you a registered lobbyist? Because if they're not, they can't be advocating on your behalf, at least not legally here in Massachusetts. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But beyond that, we're also the organization that is right on the front lines of these issues. As I said earlier, Frank Valeri is your representative on the COLA Commission. Every city and town across the Commonwealth, if they set up a public employee committee to negotiate locally on your health care benefits, our association, by law, by statute, has the responsibility to appoint and name a local retiree to represent all of the other local retirees on that local public employee committee or PEC. So these are just some very clear, important distinctions about what makes our association different. Bill Reary, our general counsel, is an attorney. As I said before, Bill got his start with AARP. Chapter 32, which is our public pension law, Bill has probably written half of Chapter 32 at this point. The expertise that our staff here at Mass Retirees has and works on your behalf is really second to none. Whether it's Nancy McGovern on healthcare or Bill Reary on pension law, Frank Valeri and Joe Connerton in terms of just public pension policy and coming and retiring from the PEREC, the Public Employee Retirement Administration Commission, and their level of experience and expertise is really second to none. And then, of course, we have Tommy Bonarigo with decades of direct experience on Beacon Hill, leading our legislative program. And, this is my 31st year representing you and working here at Mass Retirees. Next Friday, my wife's birthday, is also my anniversary here at Mass Retirees. And I cannot be prouder of the job I have, not just working for you, but representing you and your families and your interests. And a big piece of that is the work that we do here day in and day out, the long traditions that we have here at Mass Retirees, and the ethos that we represent on your behalf, and just the importance of all of that. I can't be prouder of the work that we do. Hopefully you feel the same way. And I just want to close this out by thanking those of you who have chosen to be a member of Mass Retirees. It means the world to us that you think so highly of our association, that you've joined and that you've remained a member, in some cases, for far longer than I've been here, and that says something. So if you're watching this for the first time and you're not currently a member, please consider joining. Links to do so can be found on our social media pages and on massretirees.com. But with that, I'm going to sign off for today. This has been a long one. I'm sorry about that. But we will be back to you again next week with a fresh update, and then the final update for 2025, again, will be in 2 weeks on Friday the 19th. We're going to have a lot to report on over the next couple of weeks, so bear with us. But in the meantime, everyone, be well, enjoy, and stay warm. It's getting kind of cold out there pretty early. Bye-bye.